ain't gonna be able to
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. I praise Allah تبارك وتعالى. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intentions. How is everyone doing this morning after the long 3-hour marathon roundtable from last night? MashaAllah, as I think and reflect on all the things we talked about last night and many of the things we talk about on the roundtable and some of the statements and inquiries that we get from you, I realize that this work we're doing is extremely important for many of us. I know there's a segment of people who like the tea and the popcorn. I do realize that. But there is another segment of us who these matters are extremely important. And understanding truth as truth and falsehood as falsehood is of dire importance to them. And we try our best on these or in these sessions, especially on the Black Imams Roundtable and on our individual platforms. Maybe our individual platforms are not so, entertaining because we're more concentrating individually as teaching because we have living, breathing communities. So, we have to actually educate, one's informing, and then there's the aspect of really educating people, which is more academic and more technical. But the roundtable is a way to just really express what we live. That's a better way to put it. Express what we live. And Black Imam really means something. Maybe we should. I know somebody's going to steal it, but I'll put it out there anyway. The Black Imam. That's a reality. That could be a reality show. All right. Since you're going to steal my idea, listen. Cut me in. We need to do a reality show, the Black Imam. and get a real black imam. Get a couple of them, right? Not the black imam who's trying to be other than the black imam, like a real black imam in the inner city dealing with all the stuff. Like, I give you an example. You know what time I went to bed last night? Like 1:40 in the morning. You know why? Because as soon as we got off the round table, I had black imam issues in the masjid, right? The black imam don't get no sleep, right? Like Imam Fahim had black imam issues right after the round table. That's why he had to leave out earlier, right? We got real stuff, real all the time, right? And as soon as I finish this, I gotta do some more black imam stuff. Right? It need to be a reality show. So when we talking on there, why you hear the passion? Why you hear? Because we dealing with real life situations. This is not something we made up. This is not entertainment on the internet. This is real everyday life. We're impacted by everything we talk about, right? So if that reality show comes, I need my share, right? Don't cheat the black imams, right? I think we need to produce this one. Yeah, that's a great idea. Fatima, it was a blessing to see you on the other side of the lake. It was a pleasure, you and your husband. I hope y'all enjoyed yourself. Y'all look magnificent. And it brings joy to my heart to see you sticking it out with us through your own, struggles of, health, but you stick with us. May Allah reward you. May Allah reward your husband. And, you're a soldier. May Allah make many like you. Insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And you could write your own book, your experience with the black imams, right? Because you actually been on the ground and saw how we are as people. So many people, they may hear us and be like, man, them guys, you be like, nah, them guys are not like you think. Yeah, they talk like that. Yeah, they say what they say. But I'm telling you, firsthand, they live like they talk too. And you should be the poster elder for the Black Imams Roundtable. It will really throw a twist in there. They'll be, wait a minute, what's going on here? Alhamdulillah. But on a more serious note, I want to share something with you, because last night's roundtable, and this is where every Wednesday I try, it's been awfully difficult later, I tried to reflect on what we talked about yesterday. So we're in this series of discussions which Imam Naim came up with, when the rubber meets the road, right? And we took the three primary sciences of Ilm al-Aqidah, Ilm al-Fiqh, and Ilm al-Tasawwuf, the science of the creed, the science of jurisprudence, and the science of Sufism. And we said, how did this look practically in our lives? Right? All right, we hear about Aqidah, we hear about Fiqh, we hear about Tasawwuf. How does this look on the ground in real time? And how do we apply all this stuff we're talking about? That's a very good question. So we came up with this series, When the Rubber Meets the Road. So yesterday, we talked about the saying, I follow Quran and Sunnah. To me, this is my personal opinion, That slogan, without proper Islamic training and education, was one of the most devastating things to happen to the Black Muslim community. That's my honest opinion. The slogan itself, without proper training, has been one of the most devastating knives that's been forced into the heart of the Black Muslim community. I'm trying to find a way to like make it graphic so you can see how dangerous that has been for us. Because this concept of I follow Quran and Sunnah, right? Right, this concept gave us, particularly as a community who came to Islam to be educated, to learn, it gave us the reverse effect. Actually, we came into Islam and started listening to that slogan and actually stopped learning. And the one who taught us, the ones who pushed this issue on us, never gave us true context of how to apply it. While they themselves applied it for themselves to an extent, and it protected to an extent their society, but they sent it to us and it ripped us to shreds. And if we have a real conversation on the ground, I'm not talking about in your mind, on the ground, you'll understand clearly what I'm talking about. In order for that saying, I follow Quran and Sunnah, to really apply to someone, they need to meet certain religious knowledge requirements, which is known in the history of Islamic scholarship. Like this is something for anyone who studies or studied a little bit. Now, let me put some context around this word studies. I'm not saying you have to be a scholar to be aware. If you study, even at a basic level, in a traditional, classical, historical, global setting, you're going to know certain things, right? You're going to know certain things. Among those certain things is that not every layman has the ability to deduce legal rulings on their own, independently of other resources, especially scholarship and expertise. That's just not reality. However, in our communities, they sold us that lie to where many of us, by default, we didn't mean it, had to assume the position of a qualified judge without none of the prerequisites. And we're making laws and judgments without any of the requisite information, by necessity, because of slogans like that. Do y'all follow that? In other words, let me give you something analogous so you can follow me. In order to follow the Quran and Sunnah on your own, right, that would be equivalent of you reaching the level in American jurisprudence, in American law, a chief justice on the Supreme Court. And it's not an equivalent. The justice on the Supreme Court doesn't know as much as the one in Islamic sciences who would say, I follow Quran and Sunnah. The knowledge that he has to have, the Supreme Court justice don't have that kind of knowledge. Do y'all follow that? Please let me know if you understood that analogy. It's extremely important. I'll repeat it. In Islamic law, in the Islamic sciences, the one who would justly make such a statement, I follow Quran and Sunnah, the one who we would accept that from religiously, would have the knowledge and rank of the Supreme Court justice in American law as an equivalent. However, in reality, the Supreme Court justice does not have the level of knowledge of American law like that scholar who is actually a legal expert would have in Islamic law. It is the study and the requirements are not as rigorous for a Supreme Court justice as they are for what we call a mujtahid scholar. And let me give you a term. Please write this down. Which we say an absolute Islamic, and I just use these terms just to give description. So that mujtahid scholar we call mujtahid mutlaq. That's an absolute legal expert at the highest levels of expertise. That's the one we accept from him. I follow Quran and Sunnah. Anyone else, Islamically, is obligated to take their legal understanding from someone like that. Do y'all understand that? Please, if someone didn't understand what I'm talking about, right? Don't just let it pass by. I really need you to follow me. Please. I need everyone to get it. I'm not trying to impress you. I want us to be educated because we're talking about generations of fixing stuff, right? And I actually believe this ain't going to happen unless the grassroots get educated. We have to have a grassroots revival of Islamic education. We're fighting Islamically the same battle we were fighting as African Americans to get out of slavery, to overcome Jim Crow, and all of the systems of oppression that were set up for us before we came to Islam, we're fighting those same battles within Islam. It's a different fight, different means of oppression, different oppressors, but the same struggle. Some of us don't realize that. Some of us, and I always like to be honest, some of us see it every day and act like it ain't happening. And you remember we had that when we was in the struggle. You know, you had those guys who, long as I'm close to the boss is fine with me. We sick boss, we got a lot of that in Islam. We have it. But the struggle is the same. The disparity is the same. Maybe sometimes even worse. Right? So there is some things we need to overcome. But now that mujtahid scholar, so follow me, is the one who we would accept, when I say we, as a Muslim nation, we would accept from that person to say, I follow Quran and Sunnah. And everyone that doesn't have that level of qualification, the Muslim nation, past and present, has never accepted such a claim from them. I follow Quran and Sunnah. Rather, I follow the deductions, the legal deductions of the mujtahid scholar, and that's how I practice my religion. That's always been like that. From the time of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, and every single generation after that, until they pulled the wool over our eyes. And they were trying to pull the wool over other people's eyes. But in the Muslim countries, because of the vast amount of Muslim scholarship, it didn't work as easy. But in a place like the West, where there wasn't an abundance of Muslim scholarship, and in the Black community specifically, it was easy to spread those ideas because there was nothing there to repel them. There is not this level of scholarship that says, that's nonsensical. What are you talking about? But in the Islamic world, globally, the reason why I couldn't get the strongest footing, it has a footing, right? I give you, let me go back to that. It has a footing. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It does exist. It existed there before it hit here. But they found fertile soil to plant and grow in the West, and particularly in the Black community. Man, it was like jackpot. We can just put our thing down. There's no way for them to protect against these ideas. Several reasons. Let me give you those reasons. Among them, this is me thinking out loud. I'm telling you, I don't mind dialoguing about this with our best. As long as we have a real talk, this is so necessary. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's not be ego tripping. Let's not take it personal. It feel personal, but it's not personal because we're all the targets in this assault. All of us. We're the targets of this assault. So no matter what level you're on, you still the target too, bro. So no need getting it personal. Without the background, fertile ground, they could spread the ideas. They can push it. Nothing to say, hey, wait a minute. But in other countries, you have a history of scholarship from generation to generation, and they realize the level of that absolute mujtahid and every level under that absolute mujtahid till it reaches the common people. We didn't have those checks and balances in our communities, right? What is the reality of our communities? We come into Islam and we have the struggle, the racial inequality and struggle that we're fighting in this country. That hasn't changed. Then you don't have institutions that have existed, that have existed for hundreds of years. You don't have that. You don't have generations of scholars. You don't have literature available because we're converts. So we're coming into Islam. We don't know Arabic. We're Americans. We're Westerners, right? So we're trying to learn language. We don't know the language. I'm not an Arab, right? That's most of us. We come in, we're trying to figure it out. There's no institutions set up for us with our conditions and then target us and develop us. That doesn't exist when most of us are embracing Islam. So we're reading books that are translated. Most of those translated books are produced with an agenda. We don't know that. We're not familiar. We ain't world travel. We've been, right? We haven't traveled around the world, most of us, right? Study the history. We haven't. So you're not experienced. These are governments. These are people that been in struggling with ideas for hundreds of years, right? Who are you? You just coming out of slavery 150 years ago, right? That you're just getting out of a heavy state of oppression. And you're going up against people who's promoting ideas and spreading ideas that been going on for hundreds of years. Governments, underground movements to undermine governments. All that's being pushed right on you as a new convert who don't know anything. And so you're not identifying that, hey man, this is cap. You can't identify that. You can't. So it's fertile ground. And then you're talking about people who've been oppressed, and now we're finding something. We're fighting and running away from the oppression in America and the racism. Now you found the dean, and you like, man, I'm learning on my dean. And yeah, man, this is a struggle. Real stuff. Real talk. This is a struggle. So this person assumes leadership who may never had leadership before. It feels good. Like, yeah, we're rebelling against the man. Study our early movements. All of them were movements of rebellion against the system, the American system. And we fell right into a foreign agenda in the name of Islam that wasn't even the pure Sunni tradition. Right into it. And really, this is a deep conversation. Without even access to the knowledge of that great mujtahid scholar that we talked about, who can follow the Quran and Sunnah. But those movements told us, follow Quran and Sunnah, without telling us what that really is and what does that really take. In other words, I come to you and say, don't worry, you got a murder charge, bro. You got 2 murders, right? You don't need no lawyer. Go fight that case yourself. All right. I want to give you a case. I don't know if any of you ever been in the American legal system. You got a double homicide, bro. And someone tell you, you a Supreme Court justice. You can read the law books yourself. Go fight that case. Don't get no lawyer. You do it. The judge would tell that person, son, ma'am, I suggest you get legal counsel because you need to know the seriousness of what you're being charged with. And I would not suggest that you come in my courtroom with your lack of knowledge of law and try to defend yourself. Please, sir. Matter of fact, you have the right to do that, but I do not, under no circumstances, suggest you do that. And that's just a little case. We're talking about taking on a whole religion like that. Every aspect of the sacred law, we're going to go without counsel. And we're going to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. And wait a minute, here's the worst part. The guy who's doing that, he's in the county with the law book, the law library in the county. I know some of you may be like, well, why is this guy telling jail stories? Because for a lot of us, that's a reality. We understand the analogy. You ever been in a county jail and see the county's library? The jail, the library, the law library in the county? Can't fight no case from that. You don't even have access to the law books. Some law books are missing, some pages are missing. It's a mess. You're going to go in there and fight a double murder with that? That's what our libraries in our houses look worse than the law library in the county jail. I hope you follow these analogies. If you don't, that's why I said it's black imams. It's a black thing you wouldn't understand. Because if you follow these analogies, you understand us. It'd be easy. Be like, oh, I see. And things are made clear this way, right? I'm drawing you some vivid, crazy picture so you can get the point, right? So this guy is in the county jail with that serious charges facing, whether he's innocent or guilty. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about what he's being charged with. He could be innocent. But if he goes in that county library, law library, with that lack of resources and tries to defend himself, he's going to get slaughtered in that courtroom. Now, move it over. You're taking the whole sacred law, your belief, your fiqh, your spirituality, every aspect of the sacred law, and you, with a translation of Muslim Khan, Sahih Bukhari, maybe a translation of Sahih Muslim, even now today, even you got Abu Dawood translated and Tirmidhi and English translation of Quran, and you're going to experiment on Islamic law. Let me move this. Do you know that Islamic law was designed to run a government, to run a country, to run the world? And you are going to practice that with that access. Do y'all follow how silly that is? Look, don't get triggered because that's our reality, but I want you to think about it. That's what they told us we could do. Let me ask y'all, after hearing these analogies, and I can go more if you want, is this crazy or not? Is this crazy or not? I want to ask you. Please answer. All of you. There's a lot of y'all in here. And share so it could be more, because we need to get this message out. This is just plain talk. Is this stuff what they told us crazy or not? When you think about it. It's insane. I'll answer for you if you don't want to answer. It's insane. But guess what? We've been living like this for 50, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. That's what they've been telling us. That stuff's crazy. Man, I'm going to pump the Quran and the Sunnah. You are insane. That's what you just don't realize it. Because you don't even know what you're saying. That was the subject matter of the roundtable last night. It's crazy. And guess what? Someone after hearing this and now it becomes insane, real insanity, because your pride will actually make you defend that nonsense. Your pride will actually make you defend that. Like, seriously? And if I applied it to my life, I would never accept that. I would never accept it. You are practicing medicine without no practical experience, no level of education, no residency, no medical school, no university, nothing. And you are a medical expert. You're doing brain surgery, treating cancer, rare diseases. Come on. That's what we accept. And it's worse because you're talking about all of the religion. Because I don't follow Quran and Sunnah just in fiqh. I don't follow Quran and Sunnah just in Aqidah. I follow Quran and Sunnah, blank statement. So that means every aspect of Islam, I'm experimenting. Do y'all get the point? And anyone who studied Islam, when you really critically think about it, you're like, come on, this is ridiculous. That's why it's never been accepted. That's why historically in Islam, such a claim has never been accepted. To this day, that claim still hasn't been accepted in the place that pushed the idea where it got the point. So if you're looking at Saudi Arabia, they don't even accept that. Did you ever ask? Let's, Saudi Arabia has judges, right? You know that, right? They have courts, high courts, Islamic judges. I want you to do a research. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Say y'all ready. I want you to do a research project. All of you got a research project. We could do it. How many African Americans, give a rough number, some of you might know already, since the inception of the University in Medina or the other universities in Saudi Arabia alone, how many African American graduates do we have? Roughly, give a rough number you think. Just a rough number. Rough number. I want you to think about something. Let's see your numbers. Let's see how much y'all really been paying, because that's where we're getting all our information from anyway, most of us, right? From the route of Saudi Arabia. So we should know how many people they produce, right? Some idea. Let's say 30, because some people you might not know, because when they come back, there's no institutions to support them. So most of them end up having jobs, and that's the end of that one, right? Let's say 30. Okay. So these are learned people, right? They're qualified. How many of them actually would qualify to be a judge in the courts of Saudi Arabia? Forget you ain't Saudi. I'm just talking about knowledge base. How many of them would qualify? The Saudis would put you as a judge on the bench. That's a serious question. It's a legitimate question. Are y'all following my mindset? How many of you would qualify by the ones who taught you to sit on the bench and hear cases and give legal verdicts? Not a one. Not a one. Not a one. Okay. Not a one. Not a one. Now, so they do have those who are judges, and they have judges, a bunch of them. Study their history. They got judges coming, judges going, judges coming. They got a country. And none of them were qualified to be on the bench, but they qualify to come back and be on the bench in our communities. Things that make you go, what's wrong with this picture? You don't qualify for them, but you qualify for us to tell us what to do, to make legal rulings in our lives and judgments. You're functioning as a judge, basically, a legal authority, but not for them, only for us. Wait a minute. Something's wrong with this picture. Something's seriously wrong with this picture. Uh-uh. Listen, there's something seriously wrong with this picture. And when we think about it, we should be offended. I can see if you train them to the level of qualified expert and then said, okay, now go back to your country and rule over them properly. Nah, you send them back half-baked to rule over us. And if you study well, because it's all falling apart, if you study well our situation, you will notice that they were always having to refer to their sheikhs who are not judges themselves. They don't sit on the courts. So all these names they be quoting, none of these guys are actually judges. Professors in universities, popular speakers. and that's all the stuff pouring in our communities. It'll make you want to cry when you think about it. And now, since that's what you've done to us, we have to figure out how to overcome all that, because obviously you ain't got our best interests at heart, and we got to figure this out. And we still got to do that task because we have to actually get there. Now, imagine we've been living this lie for 40, 50 years. We're old. We can't do it. Our minds are not like that no more. We got to actually do this whole thing over. Man, that's a job. We actually got to do the whole thing over. Think about that. Ain't that deep? But there's a good thing. At least we are aware that we got to do it over. Right? That's a good thing. It's troublesome that you can actually do it, but we actually got to do this thing over. We got to tear the whole stuff down. We got to gut it, as Imam Amin said. And we got to go inside the walls and see how bad this electric wiring is so we don't kill ourselves. We got to tear the walls down and then go inside and look at how this thing is wired. And then redo the whole thing. It is what it is. And I can explain this in a technical academic way, but we may miss it, right? So I'm giving you it like straightforward in a way that you can get the idea so you have the desire to actually learn it in an academic way with verses of the Quran, hadith, consensus, statement of the scholars, practice of the countries, understanding judges, knowing chains of narration, all that stuff. If I tell you that, it's just like I'm just talking to the wall without you understanding the significance of why we got to learn all that stuff. Do you understand my point? But that's what we have to do. And we still, after this, we still got to actually go to the technical part of this. We actually got to do the academic work. And here's for us as elders, even if we're young, and when I say young, if you actually 40 years old, you too old to do the work. You can help somebody do the work. With American life, you don't have the capacity to do what's needed to be done. And unfortunately, because of nonsense and social media and all this stuff, the ones who have the potential among us are so daggone distracted that they won't even do it. Right? And I know this for sure. I'm not talking, I know it for sure. I see our students that go overseas and study. And when they come back, you're like, damn, man, what you was doing? That's how you feel. What were you doing? Watching the internet, bull crapping, not sitting in the classes, not memorizing nothing, just entertaining yourself. That's what we do. And that's what they push for us, Black people. Just dance, sing, have fun, laugh, comedy, jokes, no seriousness. And guess what? We right there with the other students and they dead serious. And we sitting there like, man, mashallah, you should see, dude, he's nice. What about you? You got to go home. He got a whole country of people like him. You got to go home to people who've been lied to, who've been deceived, who've been tricked, who've been denied access, and you playing games. Think about that. The people are depending on you, and you're over here bull crapping. You ain't memorized one book the whole time you've been here. What the hell are you doing? Excuse me. This is me being honest how I feel inside. What you been doing? You ain't memorized one book. You've been here for years. Come on, bro. Come on, sis. What are you doing? And then you're going to come back talking about I was overseas for 10 years. And what did you do in 10 years? You should be a scholar. You're a mess. What have you been doing? And guess what? They cool with it. Don't worry, he's American, blacks, don't worry. Just let him kiss my hand. No, that's the spirit. He should be smacking you upside the head. Get to work. You got to go back and save our people. It's that serious. Get to work. You got to go back and save our people. Nobody needs to be working hard like you do. They got help. You going by yourself. You got to go back and save a whole entire race of people. What are you doing? And then we're going to come back and tell stories how we was drinking coffee and tea and listening to story time with the sheikh. That's what you're going to come tell us? Really? While we fighting all this stuff in this country and we're struggling and trying to do the money thing and trying to keep the community floating, trying to keep the masjids going, trying to build schools, and all you can come back and tell us some stories about you hanging overseas with the sheikh carrying his shawl? Come on, man. You can't be serious. I mean, we got to talk like men. Like, really, come on. You got to be kidding me. That's all you have to offer? No, this is serious stuff. You go see those students that come from other places, they getting busy because they're going back to build their countries, to build their communities, and we playing games. And all you gotta look at 40 years of that stuff. We still looking for legal rulings from somebody else. I want you to think about that. That's the significance of this conversation. And I got to bring it to a close. But I want to lay it out more because it's something we have to do. Yeah, we're mentioning the problem. And the reason why I'm highlighting it, we're always talking about the problem, because we're never going to get to the solution. We ain't even going to think about doing what we have to do, especially the magnitude of what we have to do if we don't really realize we sick and we got a problem and somebody's trying to hurt us. If we don't realize that, we're never going to do the work. And we just got to be real with each other. We ain't going to do the work. I see some stuff I just can't say. I can't because it's hurtful, but it's true. When I see our elders at the feet of others, it's insulting to me. It is what it is, but I see our elders who've been struggling for 50 years in the deen, 60 years, and they sitting at the feet of someone else, some young kid, and praising them when you've been 50, 60 years in the struggle and you can't even do the basic stuff. That's a crime to me. That's the height of injustice. That's the height of injustice to do to a people. Everywhere where they sitting at their elders, kissing their hands, shake, mashallah, serving them, rubbing them, and you look at your elders like, get out of here. Disrespect. And not realizing what was done to your elders, what's being done to you, and that don't bother you. It's you just cool with it, right? You cool with that? No one will let you do that to their elders in anywhere in the world except us. We should be offended. We should feel this way. Where's our shuyukh? Where's our elders who we respect their knowledge and their level and their rank and their spirituality? Where are they? And why they're not in front of us, constantly guiding us that we act, not we just like you because you the old head. Nah, you really the scholar among us. You're really the spiritual master among us. Why we don't deserve that? Everyone has it. Go watch the other sheikhs. They got gray beards. They old, and they sitting, and the students are sitting in their lessons, and they listen. Where's that for us? Huh? Where's the old man who's reading books of hadith for us? The black man, where is he at? We sitting in his sessions and reading hadith and books of fiqh and books of usul of fiqh and books of tafsir and books of history and books of seerah and books of shama'il. Where's the black guy that we doing that with? The sheikh who's 50, 60, 70. Where's that? Let me go meet him. I ain't met him yet. Take me to him. Why is it fair for everyone to have that and not us? And why don't we have it? That should be a question that we want to answer. All right, it don't exist. That's real. Okay. Why? That's a question since it don't exist. And what we going to do about it? These are serious questions that we need to ask ourselves as a people. I have an older head. I have an older mentor of mine, and he's 77. 77. I love being in this company. I'm always with him when I get a chance. And he asked me about that last week or the week before last. And I said, as I learn, I realize what we've been deprived of. And when I'm with you, I just try to get my portion. I know I can't get like Islamic authoritative knowledge from you because you were never given it. But you have some wisdom about the society, you have a wisdom about life. And I just hope that by my reverence for you, that it's an example for those who come after us to have reverence for our elders. And maybe my great grandchildren will actually be those old sheikhs that have learned, that are running sessions, that are treated well, respected, cared for, because we started it, even though it wasn't the way we wanted. We started with a certain reverence. We started with a certain behavior. We did our part to the extent that we could. We tried to preserve as much as we could. We memorized as much as we could. We passed that tradition to the next generation. And maybe in 2 or 3 generations, it becomes our reality if we start now. And the first step is for us to have, in this regard, reverence for elders so that we teach our children to have reverence for elders. So when you come in the masjid, even though I'm joking, but I'm serious, all rise. I'm trying to teach us something. Because we would say, man, joker is ignorant, don't know the deen. That's what they taught us to do. And it may have some truth that you're not educated about the religion enough. That may be true. And you still struggling with ideas. That may be true. But there's a level of respect that still must exist. If we're ever going to develop an environment that's real, we have to start somewhere. And we got to think generational, because everyone thinks generational. I'm gonna tell you a story from quickly, and I'll stop with this. One of the most inspiring things for me in this regard is the family of the Prophet ﷺ from the Hadramaut Valley. I look at them today, and they're all around the world. Their knowledge and their path has spread all around the world. And we actually have brothers who are there studying now from us. Kids that came to us a mess. And alhamdulillah, Allah allowed them to have reverence for us as their old heads and listen to us to an extent, to now they're in those lands studying with their children. And inshallah, that Tawfiq comes, those children come. And I remember I got more than one, that their children now are on the path. They struggle, they sacrifice, their children are on the path. And I don't think we're going to see it probably for another generation, because we have to develop an environment here that accepts them, that protects them, that takes care of them. And we still struggling with that. We struggling on the ground. So the parents gotta want to be, all right, we did this part, but how are we going to maintain? If we go back to America, they know the grind. And so that's another issue we still struggling with. And that's where you come in and I come in, that we got to build what we have. We got to build protected institutions that for when these people do develop, because we're talking about generational, you got to think 100 years down the road. So keep that in your mind. So those people in Hadramaut, especially the city of Tarim and the surrounding areas, their forefather, his name was Imam Ahmed ibn Isa. He was known as Al-Muhajir, right? His story is like amazing to me. He died in the year 345 after Hijrah, right? This is an Imam, and maybe next time I get free, we'll read about him, right? He's like my hero, especially when it comes to us. He's like my hero, right? He's my hero. Especially when it comes to us, I think about him all the time. He actually lived in Iraq. And when Iraq had all its seditions and fitness, they were Muslims going on, but the political climate, deviant groups, all that stuff was existing. He, with his family members and his followers, they numbered about 70. They moved from Iraq all the way to the Hadramaut Valley, right? In the year 317. His intention was that I'm going to save my family, right? And my students from all these seditions. So he went to a place where he felt that he could build something. He wasn't from that place. And when he got to that place, it was filled with the most extremist groups that had the craziest ideas. And he settled there. And 1,000 years later, that stuff spread all around the world. Like 1,000 years later. But from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation, all the calamities, they were building and building and building and building and building till they got a breakthrough. He wasn't a prophet, right? He was a righteous man who had a concern for his people. To now, his descendants are among the most famous scholars in the Islamic world and the most respected for their knowledge of belief, their knowledge of law, spirituality, humanness. They are impacting every place in the world, even in America. That stuff is deep. When I think about him, I be like, that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. We got to be that caring parent for generations to come. And I studied his work and the work of his children and grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, all the way down to today. I studied it hard myself because I thought about that. And I got to see it with my own eyes, the legacy, but 1,000-year legacy. And I tell people, they be like, well, I said, man, that's 1,000 years of work. Through all kinds of calamities and struggles and fitness, it wasn't always like that. They had problems. They survived the Wahhabis. That's deep. One of my teachers in Mecca, he's from this family. One of my teachers. So he was asking me why I go off the way I go off sometimes because he watches me and he talks to me, right? I said, man, we can't afford to be like what we facing. We can't be quiet. He said something to me. He said, I understand that because we've survived in this country and we flourished under the vast oppression of the Wahhabiyya. And we still grew. You talking about the oppression of the Wahhabiyya, it was vicious on us, especially us. Our lives were at stake. We were imprisoned. We were boycotted. We were exiled. He said, and we still thriving through all that. That was my sheikh. He said that to me. He's from that family. I said, that's deep. That's some deep stuff. And now, when you watch their legacy, you're like, whew, soldiers. That's why I love them so much. And they have a pure lineage that's preserved so well. But if you study the whole system, Ash'ari and Creed, Shafi'i and Fiqh, they have their own Ba'alawi spiritual way, which is a mixture of the works of Imam Ghazali and the Shadhili way. Ghazali outward, Shadhili inward. It's a structure. It's a system. They actually got judges. They actually got jurists. They actually got theologians, spiritual masters, people of all the sciences. They established all of that. They did it. We need to take a page out their book. We need to take a page out their book. You can see through them what you need to do. That's an example. And there are other examples around the world, but this is the prophetic house. So it's an example. If we really study it and really know the history and know the scholarship and see the struggle that they went through to preserve, it's something to just be fascinated with, right? But not just to look at others and be fascinated, but to realize what you need to do for your people, because you have a people too. It's a work. Yeah, it's work. It's not easy. But let me bring this to a close. I got 2 questions and I'll stop. I hope that you're benefiting from this. Can you explain what they call student of knowledge? It seems they refer to them and or big them up as well. Student of knowledge is their way of saying you learned something and you can go back and give da'wah, but you ain't a scholar and you ain't qualified. That's simple student of knowledge. It's their way of saying you can go back, share some benefit, give some da'wah, call people to Islam, but you're not qualified. In other words, now you're at the level, according to us, that you can read the books of the scholars. You're not one of them. Is that an easier way to make you understand? You're at the level, that's not always true though, right? According to us, we say you can now read the books of scholars, you're not one of them. That's not always true because they don't even read the books of scholars, most of them. They read their curriculum and their program. They don't read no books and no scholars. They don't at all. Most of them. I'm not saying every single one of them, but and that's why they're falling apart now, because some of them are actually starting to read books of scholars, and they're like, whoa, we've been had, right? Because they start reading, they're gonna realize, oh man, they've been running game on us, and it's causing a lot of fitna. That's how people get kicked off the minhaj, you know. They start reading, start studying, start investigating, start questioning the regime, off the minhaj. You out of here. Deviant. What they call that? They cancel you. That's that they use that system. You ever get too educated, canceled. And we'll find a way. So a lot of the guys who actually start to read the books of the scholars and start to learn and study and start questioning, they get canceled. That's called thrown off the minhaj. Don't take from him. It's just a way to control the slaves. That's it. You start really examining stuff and questioning, man, like, and I want to say this. By me saying what I'm saying, I'm not making no claims for myself. We in the same boat, right? I can switch this, you know, right? Like we in the same boat. Because we in the boat, I recognize we in the boat. You just acting like you're not in the boat with me. You in the boat too. You might be at a little higher level if the boat had tiers, but you still in the boat, bro. And this boat is sinking, right? So we better start figuring out how to patch this thing up before we all drown. Yeah, that's what that is. So that's so student of knowledge, that is a student of that needs to learn. And that's no problem. That's a good step. It's a step. Listen, let me share something with you. One day, when we become a people, we're gonna need those students of knowledge. When we realize that we're in a collective struggle as a people, those students of knowledge are gonna come in handy. Once they break the shackles of mental, spiritual slavery. When they break those shackles, we're gonna need them. Right? We're gonna need them. Trust me. For what we have to do, we're gonna need them. But we need them with free minds. We don't need them being slaves of the state. That ain't gonna help us. That's gonna hurt us. But when they get their free mind and we realize we're a people and it ain't personal, we're actually trying to discover truth and we can have real discussions and we can help each other. We're not trying to destroy each other. We're trying to wake each other up so we can make a movement. When that happens, we're gonna need those students of knowledge. Those ones that those Saudis trained, we're gonna need them one day. They're gonna be a great asset to our overall movement when they're no longer slaves of the state or the government of Saudi Arabia. When they're loyal to their own people, like they're loyal to the Saudi Arabian government and the Saudi Arabian trained scholars and the scholars who come from that, when they're just as loyal to their own people, that loyal they have that, we're gonna need them. But so long as they're loyal to others, they're gonna hurt us. We're not gonna be able to use them. Even though they can be a good asset, but they're slaves. How you're going to use a slave to free you? He's a slave himself. He cannot free you. He's a slave. He cannot free you. You need a free man and woman to work on freeing slaves. You can't use a slave to free a slave. The slave does not leave in the plantation. In fact, he gonna tell the slave master, boss, he's trying to get off the plantation. No, I'm being serious. I'm not joking. That's when they cancel you and team up against you. The sheikh said, don't take from him, he's a deviant. He left his minhaj. Who is he to go off the plantation? Yes, sir, boss, that's right. Cancel that Negro so I can be next. I want to be at the house. Tired of being out in the field. I'm sorry. This stuff's ridiculous. Okay. Where's a good place to go study overseas? Where would you recommend? Which school? I don't recommend without training to go anywhere. So I would say be trained first locally among your own people. Understand some foundational things from the experience we had of already traveling abroad. Get a certain understanding and curriculum and know things, then go. So where do I say start? Start home. Don't go nowhere. First, start home. When you go overseas, you should be well trained already. Don't go overseas getting trained. You should already be trained when you leave. And you should have a mission when you leave. Don't go get on nobody else's program. When you leave, you should be going for a specific reason, know where you're going, know what you need to do, know what you're going there for, and then come back and help your people. So the first place I say go study is home. Don't go nowhere. And find the people among your people who actually had a previous experience. So it's not easy, but too many of us just run overseas and get in some group or waste our time and money and still got to come back here and figure it all out. Nah, start home. Start home. That's my advice. Start home. And if you don't have it, work with your people to build it. Right? It's enough of us. We all went overseas. There's a bunch of us that could help you. There's a bunch of us. We need to come together. And here's where we see the brotherhood. If we don't have the facilities, other people who have benefited from our struggle should help you to build that. That's a whole nother lecture, right? Instead of just building for themselves, they need to help you build too. Take some of that luxury you got and give it to your brothers and sisters who have a much harder time so they can build, so they can have dignity and honor. As brotherhood, you should do that. Our Islamic ummah, we're one ummah, requires those who have to assist and give to those who don't so that they can build. That's Islam. But I know we don't. That part we miss that. We miss that in our studies. You only you figure it out when it's to help each other. When it's to help you, not when it goes the other way around. As long as you're helping us, it's cool. But when we got to help you, but as long as you can promote us and make us good, it's fine. Yeah, there are schools for sisters. We're working on some stuff collectively, but it's going to take time. So my suggestion to you is stick around. You're going to learn a lot from this platform, inshallah ta'ala, a whole lot. And all of these sessions we have, attend. Thinking about that. Upcoming is the Aqidah, a comparative approach. Here's the link to register. You must register. This ain't the normal Masjid Muhammad free giveaway. We actually have to build something. And we live in America. To build what we're talking about costs money. That's reality. And it's a reality that because I got all these great things I want to do, but I don't have the money to do them, right? And it costs money to put on the programs. And y'all, anyone who's been around, y'all see what we try to do. That stuff costs money, man. It's not easy. And to sustain it, you need support. So we can't be shy about saying we need support. We need support. We do not have the resources to do this work that we're talking about. The level, we don't have the resources, right? So we do the best with what we have, right? We do. We do a lot, a whole lot. But it ain't even the tip of the iceberg, what we need, right? So please register. This is going to be a series. I figure at a minimum 3 sessions. They're all in person. But through these sessions, it's going to be massive education. And you're going to get to see what we need to do. You're going to see the task because we're actually going to show you physically what needs to be done, what has been done historically. We're going to have some serious conversations doing these things, right? And surgery can be difficult and painful, you know? When you got to cut somebody open, that's why they need anesthesia, because it's rough, right? And the recovery stage is rough. But if you don't go through it, you're going to die and you're going to remain sick, and it's only going to get worse. You have to go through the surgery. This type of work is the surgery. We need the surgery. We need the surgery. We need the surgery. So please support. Please register. It's September the 28th at Masjid Muhammad in Atlantic City. It's an all-day program. Dinner will be served. So part of the expense is to cover how we treat you when you come, right? Because you know, Black folks got to eat. But food costs money. So we got to do what we got to do. I'm past the thinking I can do it myself thing. I can't. I do the best I can, and I do. If I could get 10 people to do what I do, I wouldn't have to ask you for nothing. I wouldn't. If I could get 10 people to do what I do, and those who know me, who live with me, they know what I do in general. But if I can get 10 people like that, but that's a lot of work. It's not easy. Asking 10 people to sign up for that is not easy. You think, well, 10 people? Nah, I got more than 10 people. Ain't got 10 people that gonna do that kind of work. Not that kind of sacrifice. The kind of sacrifice we need? Nah, I don't have 10 people like that. That's like a miracle almost to do the kind of sacrificing we need. I'll give you an example. You got $10, you better be willing to give 5. That kind of sacrifice. We like, I only got $10, so I ain't giving nothing. Not, I got $10, let me give 1. I only got $10. I know we need 5 of that. That's the kind of people we need. And they won't break a sweat. We need people who, when they come in the masjid, they don't just sit down and drink coffee. They actually walk around and clean up. They don't look at the trash on the floor and leave it. They actually go get a mop and a broom and they clean it. They don't come to Jumu'ah and sit and eat a meal and throw it in the trash and walk out the door. They say, yo, where's the big trash can? Can I fold this up and put it in the trash? They don't leave the masjid without saying to the leadership, is anything y'all need me to do before I go? I'm free on this day. Do you need anything? We need those kind of people. And in our communities, we don't have those kind of people. We got the kind of people who just want to enjoy themselves at the expense of others. And we have to fix that problem. This is real stuff. And I've reached the age, you get a certain age where you're not, I'm too old to be telling you a story. Nah, I'm too old for that. This is what it is. So we need more of that, right? We need workers. We need men for our work. May Allah make it easy. And women who are like men in spirit, not in form. Like women who are like men in spirit, not in form. All right, I'm out. May Allah reward you. Please share the flyer, spread it. This is the education piece that we need. Inshallah ta'ala. جزاكم الله خيرا بارك الله فيكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله